ahead.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Indexer Office Hours. Today is the 20th of February and this is Indexer Office Hours 145. For those who are new to Index Office Hours, this is the town square where ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for the Indexer community. This is a call and it will be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube, so please bear that in mind. It is also a discussion, so we would love participation, particularly in today's conversation, because we have a few guests coming in to discuss various different topics and we would love your input in those particular topics. And with that, let's get into our agenda for today's conversation. Okay, so as always, I give a shout out to the 𝗨𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗹 podcast, and today is no different. And so I would love for you guys to check out the episode with our very, very committed and regular guest, that is Pablo. He's actually on a call with us today, and he's going to share a few things with us today. So I didn't prep you for this, Pablo, but if you would love to say, I would love for you to say a few words about your episode, if you're open to that as well. But of course, no pressure. If not, we can always, I can always summarize as well.
Hey, I've always been very bad at improvising, but okay. Yeah, no, I think it was super fun. It was great to chat with Nick. He asked a lot of very good questions. We talked a little bit about Horizon and the experience in the to transfer stuff, and also a lot of my personal history, which was interesting to dive into, I guess. So yeah, if you're interested in listening, yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, mate. I appreciate that. And we've got a fan in the comments there. Pili said it was a great episode. So good to hear. Good to hear. Okay. Well, yeah, I've linked it in the chat. So go check that out, folks. And with that, we are going to hand over to Anna for our Repo Watch section. Good to have you back, Anna. So without further ado, take it away.
Thank you, Abel. All right, let's see what we have since last week. And thank you, Pili, for covering for me last week and the previous week. All right, so on execution layer clients, we have had the new release of 𝗨𝗀𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗧. This is 258.0, and it fixes the execution layer and consensus layer communication for DNAB in relation to Kaplan, and it adds the Holesky network to Kaplan. What you need to know about this is that you must upgrade to this release or later before Denkum Gnosis chain, which is 11th of March, and Ethereum mainnet, which is 13th of March. Moving on, next release is Nethermind. Here we have version 125.4. So this release is a mandatory upgrade for all nodes operating on the Ethereum mainnet and Gnosis chain. So make sure you update to this version to ensure correct node functionality. And here you need to know that the PPA package has been revised, including the version and the installers. So since the version is fixed, you will need to install the latest version with the manual remover of the previous one, and there are details in the release notes, so please check that out when you're upgrading to this version. Next, we have a new release of Arbitrum Nitro. This is version 2.2.5, and this release fixes retriable gas estimation and makes a number of improvements, preparing for ARB OS 20 and EIP 4844. And I just realized I forgot to mention, for 𝗨𝗀𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗧, we have tested the new release on all of our Ethereum testnets and Gnosis chains. And similarly, we have tested the latest version of Arbitrum Nitro as well on Arbitrum Sepolia. We have a new version of Heimdall. This is version 104 beta. Things you need to know about this is that it bumps the Bohr version to 1.26 beta, which contains some fixes. It bumps the Peppermint and Cosmos SDK to latest Polygon fork and includes either fixes. All right, quickly checking the chat in between. On consensus layer client, we have a new release of Prism. This is a release candidate 5.0.0, which contains config for mainnet Deneb fork. Then on Teku, we have release version 24.2.0. This is important. This is a required update for mainnet users containing a configuration for the Deneb upgrade on March 13 and Gnosis Deneb network upgrade on March 11. For other networks, this update is optional. What you need to know here is that when you upgrade, you will require an additional 50 gigabytes of extra storage for blobs for mainnet and 35 gigabytes for Gnosis. This extra storage will not grow above the limit, but please do read the release notes carefully. Similarly, Nimbus have had a new release. This is 24.2.1. This is a medium urgency release that includes support for the upcoming Ethereum mainnet Deneb hard fork. And this is all we have this week. Let us know if you have any comments. Checking the chat. All right. Over to you, Juan. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch, we have a few things to cover. First of all, from governance, as always, we have a new GIP 64. This is the delegation of responsibility for GraphNode version updates. The TLDR is that it's gonna go, or at least the GIP proposes the responsibility to be on the GraphNode team, so that we can, streamline the process, so that it's a little bit easier to deliver updates and not be stuck in, bureaucracy. Then we have forum research. We have now all of the core dev updates. That includes the guild, Messari, Semiotic Labs, GraphOps, Edge and Node, Pinax, Geo, Streaming Fast, and another update to Messari, it seems. Or maybe I screwed up in the agenda. Anyways, if you're interested in any of the core dev updates, you can go ahead. They are all linked in the agenda, which the agenda is also linked here in the chat. Next up, we have the contracts repository. We have two open PRs. One is a work in progress or experimental PR with the Horizon draft changes, and then Chore PR with updating the implementation addresses with recent security audits. And then we have a bunch of PRs merged for the latest Open Zeppelin audit that includes, removing set denied many since it wasn't used, clearing both for earlier rounds, gas optimizations, so on and so forth. Then for the network subgraphs, we don't have new releases yet. There are going to be a bunch of releases this week now that we have the release process for subgraphs published. We're going to be discussing these a little bit further in the next section, basically, in open discussion. But I'm going to first give it over to Paca for Project Watch, just in case.
Paca is usually here, but I don't think he's here. Oh, he is here.
Yeah, he is.
Paca.
Maybe there's nothing
okay.
to update on Project Watch, or...
Hello.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Let's see if it works.
Awesome.
Let it sound.
We need...
It's time!
Okay, cool.
Oh my god, that was so epic. You need that. Every time you do it, that's so epic.
Let me share my screen. Okay, I'm not going to see the chat for a second, but unmute if you have a comment. And also, let me see if I'm sharing.
The stream is loading.
Okay, it's loading. Cool.
It's funny.
I'll
I was
share the
looking
link.
at your profile picture as
There we
you were
go.
signing, and it's like
It loaded.
perfect.
1 hour later.
This for me.
I can see it. I can see it now.
Cool.
Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Sweet,
Awesome.
sweet. Okay, Project Watch, welcome. In case you don't know me, I'm a PM at EdgeNode. Today we're gonna do a quick one on indexer components and GraphNode. Something that's kind of been discussed ongoing over the last few weeks to months is this cost models debacle, where people weren't clear on where or when they could use cost models, but we were talking internally, and I think there was some misconceptions about this feature. You can use cost models on Arbitrum if you're running in single network mode. And so I just wanted to call that out in IOH to make sure that people knew that. And there's also no active plans to deprecate single network mode in Indexer Agent. We heard some feedback that people thought that that was kind of on the agenda, but no. And so if you're not running in single network mode and you are running in multi-network mode, stay tuned because the guild is working on that feature. So I just wanted to clarify this because we've been kind of talking in blanket statements that cost models are not available, but they are. It's just if you're running in a specific configuration. So I just wanted to call that out. That's really it for indexer components. More to come soon, but I just wanted to mention that briefly. Some exciting stuff with.
Does that mean AutoAgora also works for if you're running in single network mode?
I think so. I need to clarify, or I need to verify with Alexi, but I think that if you're in single network mode, it should just work.
Right, cool.
And if you run into any issues, let us know. But yeah, it'll be fine. GraphNode, been teasing this the last few weeks, and we're getting closer to actually releasing this. Really excited about the aggregations feature where you can kind of have bucketed like daily max or like overall max, which is kind of cool for like DEX use cases. So really excited to get this out in the next couple weeks in a release that's coming soon. And here's a link to a demo repo that David from the GraphNode team made that kind of demonstrates this feature in action. Another exciting GraphNode feature is you can finally call ether balances from subgraph mappings. So Krishna from our team picked this up and got this into master earlier today. And this feature will also be coming in the upcoming release, which the sound that I added kind of teases it's time for another release. So not this week, but in the next few weeks, hopefully end of February, early March, we're planning to get another GraphNode release out. So really trying to be about it this quarter and beyond in terms of releasing frequently and not just shipping every like 4 months. So we're working on it. I mean, we've gotten out 2 smaller features in the last, I'd say, month, Payne. So we're getting there. Increased cadence. That's really it for Watch today. As usual, we can all admire this amazing animation. But that's really all. Are there any questions or feedback? And now that we're done, I guess it's just
It's time!
all right.
Love it.
Success.
I see a question from Vince asking if the DAI contract is integrated on Arbitrum. Because without it, I don't think you can run AutoAgora.
Okay, let me follow up on that, and I will get back to you all.
One note, Paka, I put a little bit earlier in the chat. I'm not sure if you saw it, but just as a random request, having the capability of GraphNode to stop pruning on subgraphs with non-fatal errors feature applied when a non-fatal error is encountered. Like it'd be great to say like, okay, great, we ran into a non-fatal error. We're going to continue indexing, but we're definitely not going to prune because hopefully the subgraph developer gets this fixed at some point, and they may want to use grafting to, shift it over.
Oh no, thanks. I just took note, so appreciate that.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna pick up from where I left with the release process for subgraphs. This is something that came in response of the latest release for the chronograph subgraph, where we had an incident that affected basically many third-party apps due to lack of announcements, or also not also lack of announcement, but also a lack of clarity about the sort of announcements that were happening that weren't really formal. So we wanted to improve, as we mentioned in the incident, and one of the ways that we want to improve is to have a clear release process, which includes the rollout, the specified rollout for each of the subgraph upgrades whenever there's a breaking change. Of course, this doesn't really apply a lot, or isn't super interesting for when we do releases without breaking changes, because those really don't need you to do anything aside from knowing that there's going to be a release that's improving whatever. But for no, it's fine, Paka. I wanted to get all of the sections and then go to the open discussion. And now for what we kind of like aimed for the release process is, for whenever there's a breaking change, we want to make everything pretty clear as to how we're going to be handling those things, so that anyone that's running an app, or even if you're running, I don't know, an automation on your infrastructure that kind of like relies on any of the subgraphs, you have a clear guideline on how to upgrade, as well as a clear time window when you can upgrade and how can you upgrade. So the idea that we had is that we're gonna be currently we have everyone that queries the subgraph will know that we have canonical subgraphs on the hosted service. We are from this release onwards also going to be deploying to the decentralized network, now that we have FDS ready, which was again the latest release, the one that caused all of the issues. Now that we have FDS, we will have a single canonical version for each of the subgraphs that we are running, for each of the networks that we are running. This includes, of course, mainnet and Arbitrum 1 on the decentralized network, and this is going to be, of course, using the Arbitrum side of the network. But we're also going to keep having the hosted service endpoints for a while, until the hosted service stops existing, I guess. So we have a rollout procedure for both the decentralized version and the hosted service version, which are slightly different because of how they work. For hosted service, we're basically going to be, whenever there's going to be a breaking change happening, we're going to announce the breaking change is happening, and give a clear date as to when it's going to be starting. This is also going to come accompanied with a separate endpoint for hosted service, which will be a staging endpoint for the chronograph subgraph. Particularly, we already have those, but for any other subgraph that we release, we also will be having a separate one on hosted service for as long as hosted service lives. So that anyone that wants to already start migrating can do so and try out the new upgrade on staging. And after a set number of days that is going to be set in the announcement, we give a little bit of headroom here. We have two different parameters. We call them N and M. N would be the amount of days that any app has to migrate to the new endpoint on staging, if they want to do so and already have their stuff running on a live version of the subgraph. And then M would be the amount of days that staging endpoint will continue to serve the same data, or the guarantees that staging endpoint will still be working. After the N amount of days initially, we will also release this to production. So both staging, after N days from the announcement, both staging and production will have the same data. And after M days, staging will not have any guarantees as to which data it is serving. So what anyone using the hosted service endpoints will have to do is, once we announce the change is happening, they will have N days to prepare their changes, do any changes in their apps that might be required to comply with the breaking change. And after N days, they can revert to using the also that includes from those changes you will also include the endpoint change to staging. And after N days, you can safely go back to production with all of the changes live in production too. So that's basically the hosted service rollout procedure. We will also announce when the staging endpoint will revert to no guarantees, so to speak. After that, you're on your own basically. And for the decentralized network version, given that how subgraph versioning works on the network, we will do so slightly different. We will announce that a breaking change is going to happen, provide the release notes for that change, and there will be a set amount of days, end days, for anyone to use, for anyone to be able to set a specific version that they want to use in case they don't want to upgrade yet. After given end days, we will release the change to production. And if you're using, I don't know if many of you are using the decentralized network for subgraphs yet, but if you're using the decentralized network, you have basically two ways of querying a subgraph. One is a direct deployment ID query, and the other one is a subgraph name query, so to speak. The subgraph name query will always point to the latest release, and the specific version will always point to a specific version. So if you're relying on the subgraph name query endpoint, we will basically give you a heads up of end days to use a specific version, or be aware that there's going to be a change being introduced at a particular date. So those are kind of like the rollout procedures. They're slightly similar, but they for the decentralized version, we don't include a staging endpoint because it's a little bit more complex to do so and also expensive. But yeah, that's basically the idea. Thanks, Derek, for some of the examples there. But yeah, that's basically it. You will have a set amount of days to basically specify the old version if you want to keep using it without having to introduce any changes. And whenever you're ready to move to the latest production version, you will be able to do so after we release it. But you will basically be given a heads up. Hopefully, this kind of like clarifies how we're going to be introducing those changes. Again, this is only really useful for when we introduce breaking changes, which, fair enough, we're going to be introducing one now for most subgraphs. The breaking change in particular for most of the subgraphs will be enabling auto pruning on all of the subgraphs that we're handling to increase a little bit of storage performance, or actually to decrease the amount of storage required. But also for the core network subgraph, we're going to be introducing some slight breaking changes to fix some issues that Derek already mentioned in an issue in the repo. So yeah, hopefully that clears things up, and hopefully this makes interactions with any user of the subgraph a little bit better, and avoid any unexpected issues for any of you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Oh, something that I kind of forgot to mention is that with the release of the subgraphs on the network, and all of those subgraphs now being FDS compliant, which means they don't really require IPFS cat, so they don't really require any weird feature enabled for your indexers. You will be able to index any of those subgraphs yourself if you want to use the data, and you wouldn't really require. I mean, you will have the canonical latest deployment available on the network itself, so you won't really have to go to any Notion document or rely on any other GitHub repo or anything for the latest deployment, or even for the older versions.
Amazing. I see Derek typing. It's really helpful okay, he's adding context to his other comment. Cool. Well, let's make time for maybe one or two questions if people have any. But then let's also try and move a bit, because we have two other topics that we need to cover today. I mean, if people are happy to spill over into the past the hour, then that's fine.
I think it's fine. I don't think we have a lot of questions. It's mostly just an announcement or clarification on the processes, but that's pretty much it. If anyone has any further questions, you can. Well, you know where to find me. I'm always here. So yeah.
Exactly. Okay, wonderful. In that case, yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Juan. Really appreciate that. Yeah, this stuff is very important, as you mentioned. We don't want customers effectively, because they are customers, using subgraphs and then having issues with breaking changes. So yeah, thank you so much, Juan, and yeah, I look forward to seeing how things go, and hopefully they go smoothly. Okay, now I'm going to hand over to Pablo, who has some things he'd like to share with us. I won't spill the beans or spill the alpha. I'll let him do that. So if you're ready, Pablo, go ahead.
Hey,
Pablo.
Okay, that was fantastic.
That was amazing. Who did that? That was so good. We need another one. We need that in our
I
group
think it
chat.
was
In our group.
Vince. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
nice. Vince is
Yeah.
yeah, he's great with the sound effects. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, it's not really a big update. It's just a quick update on what's been happening in the Horizon proposal. We've been working on implementation. We're still working on that. Juan already mentioned we have a draft PR that we're working on. Obviously, that it's still very, very early work. So please don't look at it yet. We still need to do a lot more work for it to actually take shape. But in parallel, we've been chatting with the council about this and trying to figure out if the council would support a brownfield or a greenfield approach. That is still being discussed. So no concrete news on that. Just the update that the conversations are happening. And then somewhat related to that, the last time we chatted about these things, there was this discussion about having some standards for gateways, because we have permissionless gateways, and some of you folks were worried that maybe some gateways would try to kind of centralize in the index selection algorithms. So we talked about maybe having some form of standards body, or yeah, some entity that helps create standards of how a good gateway is supposed to behave, in particular about ISA, but also we talked about vendor lock-in and UX. And the council is also aware of this conversation now, and we've had a conversation about this, and there were some concerns raised about the risk of introducing additional bureaucracy, and yeah, the general risk of introducing stuff that makes the graph less competitive if we don't do it well. So there's an ongoing discussion about what that entity doing the standard should be. If it should be a DAO like we discussed, or if it should be something else. So yeah, again, not a very concrete update, but just wanted to give the update that these conversations are happening, that the council is aware of all of this, and hopefully I'll have more to share soon. But yeah, all ongoing conversations for now.
Wonderful. Do you folks have? Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, just said that, and that's all I got.
Oh, okay, got it. Amazing. Do you folks have any questions about that update there? I see we got a thanks from Matthew, which is awesome. Just want to create the space for questions and stuff before we move on. All right, we're getting a lot of positive affirmations in the chat, which is great. Cool. Well, you guys know where to find Pablo if you have any questions. So amazing. Now we are going to move on to StarkNet. So we have a few people who have kindly joined us today from the StarkNet ecosystem to tell us all about the chain and how to index it and do it well. So folks, if you're around, feel free to unmute your mic. And if you have any issues there, let me know and I'll try and sort that out. As you can hear from the sound effects, people are excited that you're here. So I won't speak any longer. The mic is yours. Go ahead.
Okay. So guys, sorry for the wait, and yeah, I'm just gonna, I think to actually share the screen, I can.
Yes, you should have permissions to share your screen.
Yeah,
so go
but
ahead.
I will have to like quit and reopen Chrome. Sorry. 1 second.
Yeah, go for it. No problem. No problem.
Yeah, that's yet another macOS security level. So first off, you need to allow access to your mic, and then if you want to share your screen, you need to restart again.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, yeah. I guess Mac is optimized for security there, but I guess if there was a way, Juan is always any opportunity to shit on Apple, boom, Juan takes it.
Yep. I was the same before buying my first Apple product, though.
Yeah, yeah, Juan. I think you just need to come to the dark side. Just try it, like just please one time. You don't
Or
even
at
have to buy one.
Samsung.
Just try it, or yeah, yeah, and then eventually you'll see the light. Juan is like, no. Yeah,
We
yeah.
can
Okay,
see
all
the
right.
screen now, but you're
Yes.
muted, I think. Yeah, you're muted, Jonathan.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Amazing. Fantastic.
Okay.
Great to have you here.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, yeah, today I'm just gonna give a really brief introduction to like .NET with the integration between .NET and the graph. We're doing this basically because we've already been working on this for quite a while. Like I would say more than a year. Because right. Okay. Yeah. So a bit about myself. This is Jonathan. I'm the co-founder and CTO of zkLand, which is a lending protocol on .NET. And a bit more about myself. This is my GitHub handle. You can actually look me up on GitHub. And by the way, the slides are actually for this thing is actually hosted here. How do I send a chat?
There should be a button top.
Top right.
That one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one as well.
Got it. Okay. You can actually see the slides. Yeah. So the one thing I'm mostly working that's mostly like relevant to this community call is the .NET Graph thing, which you can actually find here on it's just called .NET Graph. Sorry guys, I had the tabs open, but I just don't have them anymore. Yeah, this is the organization that hosts everything related to the integration work we've done so far. I have basically everything you need to get started, but we'll come back to it later. But and then I also work on other stuff, mostly for infrastructure stuff for .NET, like open source stuff like the .NET IS, which is the Rust SDK, and Starlight, which is the CLI for .NET. It's an official CLI. I mean, there used to be another CLI, but this one is now official. And if you want to get started with .NET in general, there's documentation for this tool that you can actually see. You can actually get started like using the CLI real quick to create an account, etc., do a lot of stuff. And I'm also part of the .NET Foundation. I'm on one of the committees, and I'm also on something called the Builders Council to actually approve network upgrades. And at the same time, I'm an ambassador of the .NET Foundation, which is why I'm actually presenting .NET right now. To kind of like because unfortunately, the guys from .NET couldn't actually make it to the community call because I guess because of the token launch. Some of you might know that the stock token actually launched today, like I think just like a few hours ago. It's now trading, and I think that those guys are extremely busy. I'm actually not like an employee capacity in terms of like working for the Stone Foundation stuff. So I'm like just a community member. So yeah, I don't have any work to do with those, so that's why I'm able to join. You can also follow me on Twitter if you want. That's enough about me. And I'm going to go through some very basic details just in case you guys don't actually know what .NET even is. So it's, in a nutshell, .NET is just an Ethereum validated rollup, or more commonly known as the ZK rollup on Ethereum. It's basically just there to scale Ethereum, like basically every single rollup. It uses a ZK proof called STARK, which stands for Scalable Transparent Argument of Knowledge. It's different from SNARK in that mostly because it's transparent. as you can see, like SNARK is SNARK, but SNARK is STARK. The difference is the T means transparent, which means that it does not require a trusted setup like SNARK. Because for SNARKs, ZK SNARKs, you will actually need a transparent setup. Sorry, a trusted setup that's run by a bunch of contributions from the community. But then once that's done, you can like make ZK proofs, etc. But with Stock, you don't have that, and you don't have like a trusted setup you have to trust. That's basically the gist of StarNet. Like it's a rolled up and it scales Ethereum pretty much. That's pretty much it. But one thing that actually sets StarNet apart is the use of the Cairo programming language, which Starkware actually like invented in the first place to deal with their previous system called StarX. But StarX isn't really relevant right now anymore. It's all about StarNet now because StarX was like a SaaS platform that like there's one. It's like AppChain. You have like one app running on an entire network. So that's what DYDX was on. It's what Immutable X is on, and yeah, but that's the old thing. But like they invented Cairo for StockX, and then they built StockNet, and StockNet uses Cairo. Unlike a lot of other you can actually see in the ecosystem a lot of other networks like Optimism, Arbitrum, or maybe like zkSync or especially Scroll. These or other rollups on Ethereum, they really like want to attract existing infrastructure like developers, like EVM developers, by making them their chains like more or less EVM compatible. I mean, some of them are more compatible than others, but Sonnet does not do that. It uses Cairo. It doesn't even expose an RPC endpoint, which is why we actually have to do this whole integration in the first place. Because if it uses the RPC endpoint for the RPC spec for Ethereum, we wouldn't have to do anything. We just have to like plug start RPC into the graph, and we are done. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And Starnet is kind of like trying to do what's right instead of like what everyone else is doing. So that's why like we use Cairo, because Cairo is specifically designed to be ZK friendly. That means every construct in Cairo was specifically made to make it easier to prove. Like if you make something, Solidity itself isn't like I mean or that ZK friendly. There are hash functions, there are stuff that just are really hard or expensive to prove. But Cairo is basically like designed from ground up, from zero, from scratch, just for ZK proving efficiency. So that's why Starnet uses Cairo. I mean, there is a transpiler that exists called RAP that like transpiles Solidity into Cairo, but that isn't really like quite ready for use. So I would say if you want to get started on .NET, just kind of like learn Cairo. It really isn't that difficult, especially if you have background in Rust, because it takes a lot of inspiration from Rust. And also .NET uses the Kong abstraction, but I guess that's not news anymore because like every network, layer 2 network now uses some sort of like Kong abstraction, and even Ethereum itself is gonna have it at some point. So that's not really a news anymore, but it used to be like one of the major distinct unique feature of .NET. That you can obviously learn more about .NET here on its official website. And I guess the thing that actually interests most to the indexer community is what kind of nodes can I use? There are two major production-ready nodes for Sonnet. One is Pathfinder, that's implemented in Rust, and the other one is Juno, which is implemented in Golang. Maybe it's the language of choice for the graph community. There's actually like these two other production-ready nodes, but like we do have in the .NET Graph organization here, we do have a third one that's not really exactly a node, but it kind of like doesn't really know very well. Okay, it works now. Yeah, so there's this third node. This is not really a node. That's because sometimes like for these two nodes, it could be a little bit like slow to sync compared to some other existing Ethereum layer one nodes because they are not really like optimized at this point. Not that optimized, I would say. That if you have like a trusted node inside your internal network, you could like use this simple tool that we built to actually convert, like take event from the JSON RPC and then like emit the file host like formatted logs that's back to the file host cluster. Yeah, this is one thing. But everything here is available. Like everything I talk about is available in the docs. We do have like documentation that I'm going to show later. And about the integration, it actually consists of two parts. Basically two major parts. The first part is the most important one, which is the forks that we actually maintain. We do maintain the forks for graph node and graph toolings. These are the major forks that we maintain. I mean, there used to be others, but now it's really just these two. And we're working like constantly working on upstreaming the changes that we make in these forks. And I mean, like many of you may have already noticed, like in a recent GraphNode release, we already have the basic .NET support upstream, which means that today, if you want to get started, to index in .NET, you don't even need to actually use a fork. You can just use the canonical, the original graph node. And for graph tooling, we have a lot of work to do, but the basic stuff works. And in general, we are working to like improve and implement features on these forks, and then we upstream them. And then like eventually, the eventual end goal is that we don't have to maintain these forks anymore, and it would just be the original one. And of course, we also have like documentation to help people get started. And the first one is the quick start, which is a really simple like tutorial that teaches you how to use Docker Compose to get started with an entire indexer, a node, an indexer, and a subgraph. Like, and eventually tests it with a curl command. So it just like tells you how to like run the graph node. Basically, just do a Docker Compose, and you create a subgraph using the Fox CLI. You can actually see here it's not a graph protocol, but eventually it should be. Is from the .NET Graph namespace, and you install the Fox CLI. You create a subgraph, and then you deploy it to a local network. And then you can actually query it, like, and you get the result. Pretty much like a standard graph experience, but this time it works with .NET. This is a really quick like tutorial kind of style where you can actually follow along to actually get a sense of how it actually works together. And from there, you can actually like develop it into a production ready stuff and maybe like that. And we also have the documentation that's recently merged into the Firehose documentation repo. You can actually find it here, like in the Firehose documentation, you can actually see under next to the Firehose setup section, you have a community integration sections, and we are proud to be the first community integration section documentation that gets merged. You can see we're actually the only one here. And we value a lot about good documentation and tutorials and guides because that helps people get started really, really easier. And whenever someone asks, how do I do this? We just point them to the documentation. It's much easier than spamming the chat with repeated messages over and over. But yeah, you can actually see whatever I was talking about. Like you can actually see like the Pathfinder, the Juno, and even the JSON RPC to find stuff. They're all there in documentation, and with we even have like documentation for deploying with or without Docker, running the whole stack, like running the whole stack of instrumented nodes, like the file host or the reader, the reader, the merger, everything. included in the documentation, so you can actually check it out if you want to like get started. But yeah, I would still recommend that you checking out the quick start first if you want to get started like real quick, because it's the easiest. You literally just run one command and then you're running. So, and yeah, I just want to talk about like how much work has been done and how much work is to be done. And the context basically that I mentioned about that we actually have been using working on this for like more than a year. And in fact, zkLAN, the project I'm working on itself, actually has been using it in production for that entire time. We developed this thing and then we used it in production. So in terms of stability, I would say it should be pretty good. Like it's at least on par with what the original GraphNode implementation is like. We haven't encountered any major issue. So if you ask me, is this production ready? I would say maybe not, but we've been using it in production anyways because there isn't any like indexing solution that's good enough on .NET. I mean, like we do have like native like indexing services on .NET, but personally, I think the graph is a much more like mature and just generally better and more decentralized, obviously, solution for indexing. So that's why we maintain that we should make the graph work with .NET instead of reinventing the whole like indexing thing again. That's really why we started doing it in the first place. And yeah, in terms of what worked, these stuff works like instrumented nodes like Juno. We have more instrumented Juno Pathfinder. We have instrumented Pathfinder. These instrumented nodes, they just like sync with the network and then they emit fire host drops for and eventually like generates a fire host streams. And so graph indexing, obviously this works. Like you can actually use the CLI to actually like create a subgraph, compile it, you throw it at a node and the indexes and you get the result. That's pretty much the most critical component, I would say. But then there are a lot of stuff that hasn't been made to work. And these are just a list of what these stuff are. First of all, the file host filter. Like right now, if you actually spin up a cluster and use whatever throw as a graph, what happens is that the node is actually going to read the entire file host stream. Like it doesn't really care. Like I mean, I could just be indexing, like for example, ether transfers. But the graph knows it only needs that, but the graph node doesn't care. It always just pulls the entire blockchain streams from the Firehose cluster and then like consumes it and then like process all the triggers and tries to match it, only to find that only a handful of events actually matches. So like 99% of the work is actually wasted, and that includes the bandwidth as well. So you end up like getting a lot of I/O without actually doing anything. This is bad. Like work is being done to improve it. Like this is like one of the highest priority stuff that we're working on. So you should see a great performance increase in terms of indexing like really soon. So don't be disappointed. I mean, yeah, don't be disappointed if you like spin up a cluster today and try to index something and find it this indexing performance to be poor. Like it should be better like really soon. Trust me. And data source templates. This is something that we've seen people requested for, but we haven't implemented yet. Like if you have a factory contract, you might need to like dynamically create different data sources. It could be really helpful to have data source templates, but right now it isn't implemented yet. But as far as I know, like many applications don't need this. So if you're one of those applications that do not actually need this, it should be indifferent for you. But depends on your use case, obviously. And yeah, there's one interesting aspect about .NET that there's a concept called a pending block. And that really means a block that hasn't been finalized yet is still building. Like the block hash is not stable. You have new transactions coming in like every few seconds or so, and this is like the block. We call this the pending block. It doesn't have a block hash. It has a block height but not a block hash. And then we currently don't allow indexing this yet. And this causes some issues like if you want the absolutely latest data, uh, it just will not be available here because it's not indexed. But we're actually working on fixing this as well. This is also one of the highest priority stuff. Yeah, so it should be good very soon. And I mentioned about the CLI, the graph tooling. We do have basic, very, very basic code generation working on the CLI. I could be wrong, but last time I checked, like the only network that supports generating code from ABI is Ethereum. So we could be, I mean, like, again, I could be wrong, or maybe I missed something. But as far as I know, we could be the only chain integrated that allows generating events from ABI. That really helps a lot. Like you are no longer dealing with like raw event data. You can actually do something like event dot params dot from dot to dot amount, which is something that you will actually see in the examples of graph that you actually generate. You get generated like as soon as you do graph init. Yeah, but then it only works on very, very simple contracts. As long as you feed the CLI with slightly more complicated contracts, it fails. And this is really bad. Like users get really bad experience because they try to do anything that's not the most trivial contract, and then like the CLI doesn't work anymore. So we are working on this as well, obviously, like because this is really bad, like bad BX, and we are aware of that. And that's pretty much. I don't have a lot more to share. All I can say is like if you're interested in running this, don't forget to go to the quick start. Actually, the quick start, not this one. The quick start repo to actually get your hands on actually running a cluster. If you have one more details, you can go to the documentation. And if you have any more questions, you can just reach out to me on Discord. I know like I got lots of questions, but like we've been quite really busy with some stuff like over the last few weeks, so I couldn't like kind of like visit all of those, and I will try to like make catch up afterwards. So sorry guys, like for those who asked questions but didn't get answers. But now I guess like as always we should have a Q&A section like here at the end. So yeah, I'll take questions from here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for the presentation and being able to make it. And yeah, glad we figured out the audio, the screen share, everything. That's amazing. We have a question. Yeah, big round of applause to you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for initiating that, Mike. Appreciate that. We've got a question here from Derek. Derek, you can either read out your question or I can just direct Jonathan to it. It's
Yeah,
up to you.
I can unmute. So it looks like the current integration is mostly for building subgraphs and using Firehose as kind of the ingester method into GraphNode. Are people also building substreams, or are they strictly using subgraphs?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I personally don't have a lot of experience about substreams, but I know they are like really powerful. So I guess the very next step start of the integration is to actually support substreams because right now it does not. And I mean, like it's not like people only want to do subgraphs. It's more like because it's not supported right now. So I would say like it's definitely on the roadmap. I didn't actually put it there because I mean like we just want to get the basic stuff done first because the way I see it is that like most people like if they have any experience with graph, they have at least done subgraphs. So getting the basics supported, like having subgraph working like 100% first before actually proceeding to actually enabling streams. I think that's a better approach, like a progressive approach, instead of just forcing people into substreams. Because the way I see it, many people have like find it like harder to understand substreams and actually subgraphs, because subgraphs are extremely like straightforward. So it could be a better approach to just start with subgraphs first. Yeah, I think that's just the basic.
Yeah, makes sense. Very, very curious to see what the adoption looks like, just given that Cairo is very similar to Rust, if that
Yeah.
makes that transition a little bit easier or whatever. I'll also message you asynchronously because I got oodles of questions, but I don't want to steal everyone's time.
Yeah, feel free to. Thank you.
Alrighty, we've got Jonathan here, so folks, fire away in terms of questions. There you go.
Maybe it's worth sharing what's been what Matthew and related to what Matthew is saying and related to Derek's question before. Jonathan, I'm not sure if you've seen the release notes for GraphNode 0.34.0. We do support essentially substreams triggers. Having subgraph mappings consuming data from substreams triggers. So we can technically support substreams or for StarkNet. I'm not sure if you've seen that. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, I've actually seen the release notes, and I actually found that to be super amazing. But I haven't had time to actually look into like how it actually works under the hood. But yeah, I do think, yeah, I would certainly take a look and actually come back with like more insights. Yeah, but definitely thanks for the pointer. Yeah, I kind of like are aware of that, but like not exactly sure about like how it actually works. So.
Sweet. Derek, do you want to go ahead with another one of your questions, just to kind of get things going?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm always interested in, especially as new chains are getting integrated and stuff like that. Just in terms of the demand or the consumer demand over in the StarkNet ecosystem, are there a lot of people that are building subgraphs or need help building subgraphs? Obviously, as an indexer, I'm incentivized to have StarkNet rolling on the network with oodles of subgraphs and oodles of queries and all that stuff. Like that makes everyone's life here awesome. So I want to help in whatever way to make that real. And so I guess I have questions in terms of like, are there a bunch of people building subgraphs over there? Like, what are we seeing? And then also, where are things at in the chain integration process? And is there any assistance needed, or is InfraDAO really, taking charge on that one? I guess those are my primary questions.
Yeah, thanks for the question, I guess. Yeah, I do know a bunch of people building subgraphs on StarkNet. But yeah, I already show in the roadmap section that like there are a lot of stuff that don't work yet. So I guess the adoption should grow like once we actually start to like be feature complete. Because right now, I guess a lot of people would just come and start and try, and I mean, like they run the crystal, they feel like, oh, it's cool, like it works, but once they start using their contracts, like things like kind of stop working, and the really bad part about that hurts adoption, in my opinion, is really that it's really hard to set up a real cluster for production, because it takes a long time to synchronize the .NET node, basically for any node, and there isn't like a really good hosted service for this. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that hurts adoption. I mean, like whenever people ask me, I mean, I've actually had a user comes to me and say, "Hey, can we borrow your infrastructure?" like you guys are already running it in production, right? So can we actually borrow it? I mean, like we do have experience with subgraphs on other chains, and we are now integrating with subgraph. We are now integrating with .NET, and yeah, but setting up the infrastructure is a lot of pain. So can you actually borrow? Like, can we actually borrow your infrastructure? Like, we deploy subgraphs on it, and then we run queries, like, and we pay you in return. We're like, nah, yeah, it's kind of difficult, like because we are not a SaaS, we're not a SaaS company, so we're running out of stuff, infrastructure for ourselves. It doesn't really work that way, and but then I can actually see the pain like in setting up everything. It's not really. I mean, like not like it's like easy. I mean, like it's easier in the easier for Ethereum, but you do also have like the decentralized network. You have the Graph Studio. You have like hosted service providers like Chainstack. They all run the graph node for you, like the file stuff, the graph node, everything, and then you only have to like do your own subgraph. And I think that it's actually a major barrier to adoption, because once people like find out they have to run a node that's like like maybe hundreds of gigabytes in size, and then they just give up, and they so it's not exactly. I think it kind of hurts adoption. That's why we to be honest, I don't see a lot of people doing subgraphs on .NET, but I think it's going to change once we have the feature completeness, and then also better infrastructure support, maybe in terms of like Graph Studio. I know the Graph and the .NET Foundation is working on something that might bring us Graph Studio for .NET. But also yeah, so if we have that, it should be amazing. And if we start having like hosted providers for subgraphs, it's also going to be really good. I mean, like I already mentioned that there are native indexing services for .NET, and many protocols do go for those. But I think that's because like of the challenges that currently exist with .NET. The integration. So yeah, so I do feel like it should get better. Yeah, once we improve stuff, like both in terms of like technical stuff and actually hosted services like Chainstack or whatever.
That's very exciting. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot of indexers here, which, as you can see in the chat, we're ready to host these things and make the discoverability side for subgraph developers a lot easier, and that's why a lot of us exist. So any assistance that we can provide on that sense, we're happy to step in and assist.
Actually, some of us
Yeah,
are running StarkNet right now as we speak, and syncing one subgraph on it. So yeah,
that's
anything
amazing.
you guys need, feel free to reach out to us.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah, we're actually working with the InfraDAO on testing things up as part of the chain integration process, as I mentioned before in the chat. So hopefully we'll be seeing these getting onto the network as we ramp up with testing, getting the council approval for having protocol support, better docs, all of that. So this was a nice first step from Jonathan coming on to Indexed Office Hours and share more about the StarkNet ecosystem. So I appreciate that. Hopefully in the future we can continue working here on the Discord, on the Graph Protocols Discord, so you can answer any questions indexers may have once they start ramping up. And yeah, again, thanks Jonathan for joining. I actually have to drop off now, so I'll see you guys I'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Jonathan. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, Pedro seems to have done the outro there, so I'll follow up on that. Hopefully this isn't the last one. I would like to do more of these going forward. So if you're open to it, Jonathan, it would be our pleasure to host you again. As you can see from the comments that people are making, everyone is very excited, and people are already, indexing as well, which is very exciting. So yeah, we're slightly over, and I want to be very courteous of your time, Jonathan. I appreciate you coming on, and I don't want to hold you for too long. But let's do this again, potentially next week, or if anyone wants to go ahead and just try some stuff, and then maybe come back next week with some further questions, or we could just push something out for another date. Whenever people are keen. Yeah, thanks again, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm certainly down, and thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me over here. Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you, guys.
It's our absolute pleasure. And with that, I'm going to wrap up today's conversation. Thank you all for attending. And yeah, I hope you learned something new. Hope you were entertained. And yeah, we'll see you again, same time, 6 p.m. UTC, same place. Take care, folks. Bye-bye. Woo! Wow.